The internet has seen many viral games over the years. Some are complex, some are beautifully designed, and some take years to build. But every once in a while, a game appears that seems almost too simple to succeed, and yet it takes over the entire world. This is the story of Dong Nguyen, the creator of Flappy Bird, a game so simple that many people called it dung. But it made him a millionaire before he suddenly deleted it. Before Flappy Bird became a global phenomenon, Dong Nguyen was a relatively unknown developer from Vietnam. He wasn't working at a massive tech company, and he didn't have a large team behind him. Instead, he was part of a small indie studio and spent his time creating mobile games that were simple, accessible, and easy to play in short bursts. His goal wasn't to create the next big blockbuster. In fact, Flappy Bird wasn't even new when it first released. The game originally came out in 2013, and for months, almost nobody noticed it. It sat quietly on the App Store, with very few downloads and almost no attention. The game itself was incredibly basic. You tap the screen to make a small bird flap its wings and try to fly through gaps between green pipes. That's it! There are no levels, no upgrades, no storyline, and no complex mechanics. If you hit a pipe, the game ends instantly. You start over from the beginning. Many people looked at Flappy Bird and didn't understand the appeal. The graphics were simple, almost retro. The gameplay felt repetitive, and yet there was something about it that made people keep coming back. It was frustrating, but also strangely addictive. Every failure made players want to try just one more time. Then something unexpected happened. At the beginning of 2014, Flappy Bird suddenly exploded in popularity. Almost overnight, it climbed to the top of the App Store charts in multiple countries. Millions of people were downloading it every single day. Social media was filled with posts about how difficult and addictive the game was. YouTubers and streamers began playing it, sharing their reactions as they struggled to beat their high scores. Friends challenged each other. People compared scores online. It became more than just a game. It became a global obsession. The simplicity that once made people doubt the game was now the reason it spread so quickly. Anyone could understand it within seconds. There was no learning curve, no instructions needed. You tap, you fail, and you try again. As the downloads increased, so did the revenue. Flappy Bird used ads, and with millions of active players, those ads generated an incredible amount of money. At its peak, the game was reportedly earning tens of thousands of dollars every single day. For Dong Nguyen, this was life-changing. In a very short amount of time, he went from being an unknown developer to someone whose game was being played all over the world. Financially, he had achieved what many developers only dream of, but success came with a cost. As Flappy Bird grew more popular, it also attracted criticism. Some people complained that the game was too frustrating. Others accused it of being too addictive. There were even discussions about whether the game had a negative impact on players, especially younger audiences. At the same time, Dong Nguyen was suddenly in the spotlight. Journalists wanted interviews. The media began covering his story. His private life was no longer private. For someone who had never aimed for fame, the attention became overwhelming despite the success. Dong Nguyen didn't seem comfortable with what his game had become. He later expressed that he felt responsible for how addictive the game was and how it affected players. While many developers would celebrate this level of success, he felt something was wrong. Then came the decision that shocked the world. At the peak of its popularity, when Flappy Bird was generating massive revenue and sitting at the top of the charts, Dong Nguyen announced that he would remove the game. Not because of legal issues, not because of money problems, but because he simply didn't want it to exist anymore. And just like that, it was gone. Flappy Bird was removed from app stores, and new players could no longer download it. The internet reacted instantly. Some people didn't believe it at first. Others rushed to download the game before it disappeared. Phones with Flappy Bird installed were even being sold online for high prices. The decision only made the game more legendary. It became one of the most famous examples of a viral success that disappeared at its peak. People continued to talk about it, share it, and remember it long after it was gone. What makes this story so fascinating is the contrast between success and choice. Dong Nguyen achieved financial success that most developers would never walk away from. Yet, he chose peace over profit. For many, this raises an important question. What does success really mean? Is it money, fame, and global recognition? Or is it having control over your life and being able to step away when something no longer feels right? Flappy Bird also changed the mobile gaming industry in its own way. It showed that a game doesn't need complex graphics or deep mechanics to succeed. Sometimes, a simple idea executed well can capture the attention of millions. After Flappy Bird, many developers tried to recreate its success. Clones appeared almost immediately, copying the same mechanics and design, but none of them truly captured the same magic. Because what made Flappy Bird special wasn't just the gameplay. It was the timing, the viral spread, and the unique reaction it created among players. For aspiring developers, this story offers both inspiration and caution. On one hand, it proves that anyone can create something that reaches millions of people. You don't need a huge team or a massive budget. A simple idea can be enough. On the other hand, it also shows that success can come with unexpected pressure. Fame, attention, and responsibility can change everything. Not everyone is prepared for that, and not everyone wants it. Dong Nguyen didn't disappear completely after Flappy Bird, but he chose a much quieter path. He continued to develop games, staying away from the intense spotlight that once surrounded him. His story remains one of the most unusual success stories in gaming history. In the end, Flappy Bird is more than just a simple mobile game. It's a reminder that success doesn't always follow the path we expect. Sometimes the biggest hits come from the simplest ideas, and sometimes the person who achieves everything is also the one who chooses to walk away. For anyone watching this, especially those interested in creating games, there's something important to take from this story. Focus on your ideas, keep things simple, and don't underestimate the power of accessibility. But also remember that success isn't just about how far you can go. It's also about knowing what matters to you when you get there, because in the case of Dong Nguyen, he didn't just create one of the most viral games in history. He also made one of the most unexpected decisions the gaming world has ever seen. And that's exactly why his story is still being talked about today.